Morning. Avodah Zarah 5a, Daf Hey, Amud Aleph, and we'll start 7 lines from the top. V'hainu, we're discussing the utility of the sin of David HaMelech, serving as a model for tshuva. V'hainu Rabbi Yishmael bar Nachmani Amar Rabbi Yonasan. My dichsiv num David ben Yishai num Hagever hu kam alai. In Shmuel Beis, David writes the word of David ben Yishai, the word of the man who come all. So what does that mean? Num David ben Yishai shehekim ula shel teshuva. Who come all means he set up the yoke. All is like the word all, which is the yoke of the oxen, the yoke of teshuva. Okay. The Amar Shmuel Renachman Yonasan. Excuse me. You do one mitzvah in this world. It precedes you in Olam Haba. Your righteousness will go before you, and God's glory will gather you in. If you do one sin, it wraps around you and brings you to the day of judgment. Shenemar yilafsu archos darkam. They'll be wrapped up in their own ways, meaning the bad ways of Avera. Rabbi Elazar Omer, Kishurabo kakelav, your sin is tied to you like a dog. Shenemar v'loshama ilel ishkavet slowly Yosima. Talking about Yosef when he was when Eshes Potiphar, the wife of Potiphar, tried to seduce him. He didn't listen to her to sleep with her, to be with her. So why both these phrases? Lishkavet lo be'el mazeh. To sleep with her means in the present, and in this life, Leosima. But to be with her means he would be stuck to her, as it were, in that sin if he had succumbed. B'yom haba.
That sounds like a Mormon theology.
A Mormon theology. How's that?
That your marriage is for eternity.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
They have a lot of unusual ideas.
Okay. Reish Lakish. Bo v'nachzik tov alav osenu. We should show gratitude to our ancestors. Talking about the Egel Azav, those who worship the Egel Azav, the golden calf, Shil Malei Hein Lo Chatu, if they had not sinned, Anu Laban Leolam, we would never have been born. Shanamar, Ani Amarti Elohim Atem Uvnei Elyon Kulchem. I said you are. This is from one of the Shir Shal Yoms, so you recognize it. You are you're like the angels. Like Elohim Atem, your Elohim often refers to angels, and son of Elyon, son of the great one, the high one of God. Chibaltem Masechem, but since you messed up, you worship the golden calf, Achein Kadam Tamusu, you'll die like a man. So Lamemra di Lachatu Lohava Maldu. So what are you trying to say? The Gemara says that if they hadn't sinned, then they wouldn't have had any children. Man was commanded to multiply, to have children. So Ad Sinai, no, that would have expired at Har Sinai, and then they could have become like angels, and angels don't procreate. Wait a minute. At Sinai, after Sinai, God tells Moshe, tell the people, go back to your tents, which we understand is go back to your wives, and which would imply procreation afterwards. No, they wouldn't procreate. They would enjoy being with their wives, but no one would have been born. You would have been like angels in that there would be no births, even though you'd be enjoying yourselves. I guess angels can enjoy themselves. But it doesn't refer to their children, right? So that will be good for them and their children. So it looks like there were children. They already had children, but it doesn't mean that future children would be born. The Amar Reish Lakish. So it's all very a little I don't know if odd is the right word, but like the fact that there was sin is what enables the world to continue, is what it's saying, in its current state. Well, its current state might not be so great, but it's the only one we got. Um, it's the Gemara is positing we could have had a much better world in the sense of being like angels, but it wouldn't be this world. Um, if you Rish Lakish, but doesn't Rish Lakish say my deceive Zeh Sefer Toldos Hadam? This is in Breshis, and I think the fourth chapter. This is the book of man's generations. Of a Sefer Ha'el Marishon. Did he have a book? That seems like it would have been a pretty empty book. If Adam had it, Malamed Shehera Lo Hakadosh Baruch Hu Li'adam Arishon Dar Dar V'Darshav Dar Dar B'Chachamav Dar Dar Parnasav. God showed Adam Arishon the future, every generation's Darshim and Chachamim and Parnasim supporters, Kevin Shigil Darsha Rabbi Akiva. When he got up to Rabbi Akiva, Samach b'Tarasov and Nisasev b'Misaso. Then Adam Harishon was happy at Rabbi Akiva's achievements in Torah, and he was distressed at his death. So looks like it was foretold that there would be children even before the Egel Azav happened. Um, Amar, and he said, and what did he say about Rabbi Akiva? V'li mayakuru reyecha el. To me, like your thoughts are brilliant, are so dear. So the point is that it was foretold that there would be many generations even after Sinai. And furthermore, V'yamar Rabbi Yossi, Ein ben David ba ad sheyichlu neshamos shabaguf. This is a mystical saying in which Mashiach will not come until all of the souls that are available in the storehouse of souls are all used up. The storehouse is emptied out. Shnamar, Kiloli Elam Ariv Tov. I will not forever be angry. Ki ruach milfanai yatov, u'neshamos ani asisi. The spirit will go out from before me, and the souls I have made. So somehow this pasuk is understood as all the souls have to be involved before Mashiach comes. So looks like what does it mean that souls are sent out? It means people are born, right? So it does. This also foretells that people will be born.
One reason why some Haredi Jews want to have humongously large families.
Yeah, right. I've heard that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're at just lo tema anu lo banu li'olam. So what Reish Lakish meant in recommending gratitude to our ancestors who worshipped the Egel Azav was not that we wouldn't have been born. El kamish lo banu li'olam would have been as if we had not come into the world. Um, so perhaps this means that they would have lived forever and we would be insignificant. You imagine you have all your great 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 ancestors around, then who are you? You're a nobody. I mean, I've lived in places where the Jewish community was dominated by these clans, at which the patriarch was called all the shots. So um, so that's what Reish Lakish is saying, that we would be insignificant. We wouldn't have room to develop our own contributions if all of our ancestors are still around, telling us what to do, I guess. So Gemara continues to analyze this. I say. So what are you saying? That now you're telling me that if they hadn't sinned, they wouldn't have died. Waksiv Parshas Yabamos, Uparshas Nachlos. But the Torah tells you about instances where people, like their mitzvahs, which are predicated on people dying, like a yivama, right? That the brother has to have the husband has to die in order for that to be relevant, or nachla, inheritance. Somebody has to die for relevant um, for inheritance to be relevant. So Gemara says Altanai. Okay, so the Torah knew, like, maybe the Jews will sin. Right now, I'm thinking they're never going to die, but if they do sin, then they're going to die, and then we'll have these mitzvahs. Miksive Krayel, it's nice. So really, does the Torah do that? Does it have provisional mitzvahs? In the yes, the Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. My Yom Hashishi. The Torah says it was evening and morning on the sixth day with the extra hay. God made a t'nai, a condition with the creation. V'yamar. If in the future the Jewish people accept the Torah, great. Then the we're going to lose the whole purpose of creation if they don't accept the Torah. So everything will go back to the pre-creation state. So in other words, the whole Torah is provisional. If the people don't accept the Torah, then it's kind of rendered null and void. It will be irrelevant. Okay. Um, Though I can think of some other things also, like it's not exactly provisional, but there are mitzvahs which the Chazal say that Ben Sarah, right? That it's given not because it will ever be executed and carried out, but it's drosh kabel schar. It's there for you to study and get the reward for learning it. Okay, Mesa. Meeting Torah says if only the people would do all the mitzvahs, then everything would be great for them. So what does it mean? Like it'll be good for them? I can't. We're not going to say they're not going to die. Because it's already been decreed that everyone dies. So what it means is that when we accepted the Torah, it means that if we stick to the Torah, no one will dominate us, no one will subjugate us. As it says, as this pasuk says, so that it will be good for their children, for your children, forever. Um, so the why are we bringing this here? Because by the way, it says like don't think like that means that they won't die because everybody dies. So if everybody dies, then doesn't that contradict Reish Lakish? No, he has another view. Like there's a differing view from this Tana, the Tanya. Rabbi Yossi Omer, Lo kiblu Yisrael Torah kadesh sheyeh malach hamavis shaloi behem. The people accepted the Torah only to kind of ward off the Malach HaMavis, to ward off death. As it says, the pasuk we quoted before, but you messed up. So the implication is from this brisa or this memra that indeed we could have warded off death, but by messing up, but by not following the Torah, then we die like regular people. Rabbi Yossi Name. But even according to this Rabbi Yossi, Aksiv Laman Yitav Lam Ad Olam Leolam, it doesn't say so it'll be good for them and their children forever. Tovahu Dehavya Hamisaika. So in other words, it'll be good for you, but it doesn't say you're not going to die. It says it'll be good for you. So where do you get this idea that you're not going to die? Amarlach, so Yossi could answer. Kevon deleka misa, since there's if there would be no death, and l'chatov gadol mizu, that's the best kind of goodness you could have. Like the worst thing that can happen to a person, according to this view, is to die. So when the Torah promises you that it'll be good forever, that means you won't die. V'tana kama name, but what about the other view? Haksiv achen kadam tumusu. Doesn't it say you're going to die? Like if you sin, you'll die. Doesn't that imply that if you don't sin, you won't die? My misa anius. It doesn't mean literal death. It means poverty. Yamar arba chashuvim kamesim. There are four types of people that are as if they were dead. Eluhain, these are them. Ani, a poor person. Suma, a blind person. Mitzara, someone with saras. Mishain labanim, and childless person. Ani, so what's the backup for all this? Why isn't Ani like what makes us say a poor person is like he's dead? Deceive, he may call Hanashim, uh, when God tells Moshe to go back to Egypt, and he said, because all the people who tried to kill you are dead. Umaniu, who are these people? Dasan Vaviram. Umi Mesu, but they didn't die. Meheve Havu, they were still alive. I mean, we know that they left Egypt, with in the CS Mitzrayim, so clearly they were still alive. El Shiardu min Nichseim, what does it mean? That they became poor. Um, so, in other words, it's safe for you, Moshe, to go back to Egypt because Dasan and Aviram, who were trying to kill you, they've now become poor and they've lost their power. And so they're considered like, and so Mesu Kohanashim, they're considered like dead. Summa. What about a blind person being like as if he were dead? B'machashakim hoshivani k'mesei olam. He led me in darkness like the dead of the world. Mitzara, what about someone with saras? T'chsiv al natihi kames. About Miriam, when she had saras as a punishment, Moshe said, let her not be like a dead person. So, in other words, comparing the having of saras to being dead. And finally, Mishain Labanim, a childless person, deceived. Havali Banim Vimain Mesanochi. Rachel says to Yaakov, before, while she was still childless, she says, "Give me children, or I will be, I'm dead." In other words, in my current state of childlessness, I consider myself dead. Okay. Continuing on in the same vein, Tanarabanan, Im b'chukasai telechu. Torah says, if you go in my laws, if you keep my laws, ein im el lashon tachnunim. It's like God is begging us, please go, please keep my laws. So this kind of, I guess the implication is that God is saying, like, I want to be good to you, but you have to enable me by keeping the mitzvahs. Similarly, if only my people would listen to me, I would almost in a moment I would subdue their enemies. The Omer, in other words, God wants us to listen to him so that he can treat us well. The Omer, if you only listen to my mitzvos, your peace would flow like a river. And your children would be as many as the sand of the sea, and so on. Okay. In other words, only if only you would listen to my mitzvahs. So again, the same idea that God wants us to succeed, and he will, and we can enable that by following his mitzvahs. This pasuk we had before. Moshe told the people, "Kifuye tova b'nei kifuye tova. You're ingrates, sons of ingrates." If only their heart would remain. Listening to me, God, they should have said, Tainata. So, like, good God, make it so that we're righteous. But they didn't say so. They're like, okay, we'll see how it goes. They still submitted to having the Yetzer Hara to not do the mitzvahs. Kifuye Tova, and we also see the ingratitude in the following. D'chsiv v'nafshenu katza, ein kol kolechem haklokel. When they complain about the man, it's like we're disgusted. We can't take this man anymore. It's like the food that they get every day. They're being ungrateful. And b'nei kfuyei tova, what does it mean? They're ingrates, sons of ingrates. Adam says to God after he ate from the tree, he says, "Oh, it was that woman you gave me that gave me the fruit of the tree, and I ate it." So, in other words, like, thanks for nothing, right? So God gives him a partner, and he turns it back in God's face, saying, "Oh, it was all her fault. Like, what did I need her for?" So that's the original ingratitude of man. And Af Moshe Rabbeinu lo Ramazal and Yisrael el Lachar Arba'im Shana. Even Moshe didn't like call the people out for this flaw until after the 40 years in the desert. Shanamar v'alecha sama midbar b'ayim shana. I led you in the desert, in the wilderness, for 40 years. V'lo nasan Hashem leiv ladas v'yayin liros v'yosayim l'shua adi amazeh. God didn't give you like the awareness of this until today, until after 40 years. In other words, I'm only telling you now that you've got this flaw. Amar Rabba Shmamina, Lokai Inish Adate Derabe Adar Shinin. It shows you that you can study with someone, a mentor, for 40. It takes 40 years to really understand what he's trying to tell you. Amar Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Rabbi Bana. My dechsiv ashrechem zore al mayim al kol mayim mishalche regel hashor v'achamor. Happy are you who plant on the waters, and sending forth the oxen and the donkey. What does this mean? Ashrei Yisrael, fortunate are you, the Jewish people, bisman she'oskim b'torah chasadim, when you keep Torah, um, study Torah and do good deeds, yitzra maser biyadam, then you can overpower your yetzer hara. Ve'ein mitzrayim biyad yitzra, rather than the other way around. Shanamar, how do you get that from this pasuk? Ashreichem zorei al kol mayim. Happy are you who plant on all the waters. Ein zriya al tzedakah. What planting here means is charity. Shanamar ziru lachem litzedakah kitzru lefi chased. Another pasuk which refers to tzedakah as something that you plant. In my militar, and what's the water referred to? Torah. This is commonly referred to. Shenemar haykol tzamei l'chol mayim. All you who are thirsty, go to the water. So water is a metaphor for Torah. So mishalche regel ashar rachamor. And what is this about? Sending forward the ox and the donkey. Tonavel yo liolam yasim adam atzma al divrei Torah. A person should like place himself with words of Torah. V'chachamor l'masoi. Kishor l'ol, as a ox takes on a yoke, and as a donkey takes on a load. So you should take on Torah like that. Okay, so that's the end of that Agadata, and now we go back to our Mishnah, if you recall. Shlosha Yamim, 3 days before the festivals of idol worshippers. Also, you can't do business with them because if you sell an animal, maybe they'll use that animal for Avodah Zarah on the holiday. Really, do you need really like 3 days before? Is that reasonable? But now we have another Mishnah. 4 times in the year, a person has to, if you sell an animal to your friend, yes, if you have an animal and its child, right, and you can't do, you're not allowed to have them slaughtered on the same day. Lo tishlatu b'yom echad, right? So if you sell the mother to one person, the daughter to another person, then you have to let them know. Ima macharti l'shchot. I sold the mother already for slaughtering, so don't slaughter this today because maybe that'll be on the same day as the mother. Or bito macharti l'shochet, or you could say I already sold the daughters, and then you have to warn somebody who's buying the mother. And what are the 4 times a year you have to be careful about this? Erev Yom Tov Achron Shel Chag, the day before Shmini Atzeres. Erev Yom Tov Rishon Shel Pesach, the day before Pesach. Erev Atzeres, the day before Shavuos. The Erev Rosh Hashanah, the day before Rosh Hashanah. Because on all these times, you can assume that people, why they're buying the animal, because they want meat for the holiday. They want a korban Pesach. They want, they want to have a good meal, and that's why they're buying the animal. You can assume that the shechita is going to take place right away, and so you have to be careful. Warn them, that the mother or the daughter might have already been consigned to that fate, and so you can't do it to this one. So that's all on the same day, right? Like why don't you also say there 3 days before? And Rabbi Yossi Glili says in the Galil that was common to buy an animal on Erev Yom Kippur for your Sudam of seconds. So anyway, the point is, why don't we have 3 days there? Like, why for the Avodah Zarah festivals you have to worry 3 days in advance, and for the Jewish festivals you have to worry one day in advance? Hasam de lachila, because there, what's the purpose in the case of the Jewish occasions, the Jewish festivals? Like, the reason that you're buying the animal is to eat it, right? Sagya b'chad yama. So there, it's like we assume that you buy an animal the day of that you want to use it. Hacha de la krova, but in the case of you're buying an animal for a sacrifice, in the case of the Avodah Zarah, bina tzlasa, you need 3 days because you have to inspect the animal. There's more. It has to be more perfect. Like, if you have an animal with a mum, you could shecht it for achila, for eating, no problem. But maybe not. It might not be fit for. It has to be examined properly to see if it's fit for the altar, even for the of the Avodah Zarah. Lakrova sagi b'tlasayome. So wait a minute. So you're saying the reason you have to wait 3 days is because maybe they're going to use it. They're going to use it for sacrifice, but it's 3 days enough. Tanya. Sholin b'chuz Pesach kodem Pesach shloshim yom. You should look at. You should ask about Pesach 30 days before Pesach, or Mishum Gamliel Amar Shnei Shabbosos, 2 weeks before. What is the purpose of these? So the view of this Gemara is that what do you need 2 weeks or 30 days for? To prepare the animal, to make sure you have the animal that's going to be used for the Korban Pesach. So it's more than 3 days. So we should restrict selling animals to of the Avodah Zarah 2 weeks or 30 days before their holidays. So Anan Deshliche Mumin for us, where we're more where it's more common to have a mum that it disqualifies the animal from the mizbeach, the pasle, afilu badokin shabayin, because we're very stringent about what makes a mum. Even I'm not sure what dokin means. Um, a cataract is what he translates here. That a Even a cataract disqualifies the animal, so it takes a long time. Like, if you're looking for these minute blemishes, it takes 2 weeks or 30 days. It could take 30 days to check out the animal. Inhu, but the avodah zara, the mechusar aver islahu. The only thing that you're looking for to disqualify an animal is like it's a three-legged cow, or something that's really egregious, right? So it doesn't take 30 days. It takes 3 days. It sounds like it really could only take one day. I mean, if it's a missing leg, it's a little hard to miss. But whatever. The point is they're not so careful. It doesn't take so long. It can suffice with 3 days if anything within bought. Um, yeah, I guess that leaves open the question of what about the day before? That's not enough time. Um, So that occurred to me before, but whatever. That's why it's 3 days is not hard. Nobody is gonna start checking out their sacrifice for Avodah Zarah more than 3 days before.
So what we're required, it's not the first commandment given to the Jewish people was Rosh Chodesh, and then immediately following that was Pesach. Um, so it would have had to have been at least 2 weeks that we had time to prepare for Pesach. The
Well,
first
actually, no, it's less, because the Torah says on the 10th day is when you should take it, designate the animal, on the 10th of Nisan. So it's 4 days before.
we got 2 weeks to think about it, but it doesn't tell us to actually deal with the animal until
So
four.
the 10th of Nisan, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Nisan.
3 days, 4 days. It's close enough. But you would think it would take longer, right? But there wasn't a mizbeach there. Actually, that was just for eating. There was no mizbeach involved.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Um,
We've gone a little bit more.
Dion Revelasar, continuing on about this, how about what disqualifies an animal. Revelasar says, "Minan l'chusar aver de asr livnei noach." A missing limb of an animal can't be used by a ben noach, by a non-Jew, as a sacrifice. T'chsiv mikol achai mikol basar shnayim mikol. God told Noach, from all living things, from all flesh, take two of each. Amar Torah, have behema. bring an animal. Shechayin Rashe Avarim Shala. It's so Mikol Hachai, the extra phrase he's somehow interpreting as it's got four living limbs or something. I don't know. It's a little unclear what this proves. So Gemara says, wait a minute, Haimi Baile Lamute Trefa Delo. Isn't that what tells you that it can't be a trefa, right? It has to be an animal that's not sick, but it doesn't exclude missing a limb. An animal can live just fine with a missing limb. So Gemara says, Trefa mi lachayos zera nafka. Now that comes from a different word, lachayos zera al pnei kol haaretz. So if it's not going to survive, then it's not suitable for sacrifice after the mabul. So honey chalmandiam are trefa lettuce. Okay, so that makes sense if you think that a trefa can't give birth, right? An animal that is not going to live can't give birth. One of trefa lettuce, one that says, yeah, the animal can be sick, but it doesn't mean it can't. It can still give birth. Michael Maymar, Amakra itach, take onto to the ark with you. Bedomilach. It has to be like you. So just like you're not a trefa, so the animals can't be trefa. V'dilma noach gufei trefa. Well, how do you know Noach wasn't a trefa? Maybe he had cancer, right? So tamim ksiv, because we know Noach was described as Noach tamim hayabadar. So he was complete, right? Which is understood here as an indication of health. V'dilma tamim bedrachav haya, but I mean the usual understanding of this verse is that he was complete in his behavior, right? That he was an upstanding person. So Gemara says tzaddik sibed. It already says Noach ish tzaddik tamim hayabad arasav. So it already says he was a tzaddik. So tamim means he was healthy. V'dilma tamim midrachav tzaddik b'masav hava. Maybe it means both are referring to his behavior, that he was a tzaddik in his deeds, and tamim, a pure or perfect in his behavior. So maybe it's like two aspects of his character, and not necessarily referring to his health. Lo salkadatach. I don't think so. Nuach gufei trefa avai. I don't think that he was sick. Di salkadatach nuach trefa avai. If he was sick, amalei rachmana kavasach ayil. Like so, it says itach. Bring something like you. Like God is going to tell him only bring sick animals like you are sick. That doesn't make sense. Shleiming lo ta'ayil, and don't bring healthy animals. That makes no sense. So it must mean that itach means like you, a healthy person. All right, now that you're using that, l'chayos zera only. So why do you need the word l'chayos zera to be alive? I mean, if it only says like you, I would have thought l'tzavsa bi'alma. Like, bring healthy animals so that they'll keep you company, right? That they won't die on the ark. Vafilu zaken, vafilu saris, and it could be like an old animal or one that won't procreate anymore, or sterile for some other reason. So that would be enough for companionship. Because Rahman Zarah. No, the Torah says, I want them to be healthy so that they can propagate the species after the mabul. Okay, it's a little weird, but fine. And we'll stop here for today. Pick it up tomorrow.
For 300 years after the Mabul.
Yeah, right? He can't have been that sick.
Yes, I mean, he could get drunk afterwards, but
Yeah. Okay. All right.
yeah.
Pick it up here tomorrow. Have a good day.
Yak